Okay, our next presentation is the state of the district, to be given by Superintendent Billy Smith. We are limiting this to 7 minutes. You take famous last words, but you take all the time you need, Mr. Smith.
I appreciate that. Well, before I even get started, and I'm going to try to limit my storytelling, I'll start with the story. Well, first of all, when I walked in this evening, I saw the entire high school administrative team here, and I thought, oh, that is so nice for them all to come out for the state of the district. But then it dawned on me, I think they may be here for another reason. So, again, before we jump in, another special comment. I want to dedicate this State of the District presentation to Mr. Roger Martin. It is his absolute favorite. And when we had to cancel the February 3rd meeting due to all that snow, ice, whatever you want to call it, he was devastated. And I've had to hide those candy bars. They've been in my office for a while, and he's been so excited about that candy bar, and so he wanted me to keep an eye on him tonight. I know he's anxious to get into that candy bar. And I want to thank Mrs. Lane in advance for helping me with the PowerPoint over there. She's going to be hitting the clicker, and I'm hopeful that will reduce the length of the presentation. So if I'm not over here, trying to get that to move, because once we get a certain point, it's like it goes pretty quickly. So I also will say that, and this will be my last comment off script, and that is really what gets me in trouble. I presented, I love to talk about the district, and yesterday I had the opportunity to present at the Fairfield Leadership class and talk about the school district through the Chamber of Commerce, and Mandy was there, Mandy Ogg and Matt Crapo, and I decided to go off script and just put my script to the side, and I thought, this will be a nice test for me for another upcoming event where I have 15 minutes to talk, because the presentation will be very similar. I went for 40 minutes. So I am going to do my best to stay on script tonight. I have a lot of exciting things to share. This year is no different. I think the state of the district is strong. It's strong because of our people, and it's strong for different reasons. 2022 is different than 2021 and 20 and so on. And these years are not identical. Everything, you always, you plan at the beginning of the year. That's one of my favorite things. You make all of these plans. This is what we intend to do this year, and we get lots of curveballs every single year. And it's all about adapting and adjusting, and in the end, just doing what's best for kids. And as I listened to that first presentation this evening, that 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it was, that's really the state of the district. That's what it's all about. Those kids, what they've done, our students and our staff members working together to just do magical things. And that happens throughout the district, in every building, every day. And we just got a little snapshot tonight of a few kids and a teacher from one building. But I promise you that's what happens every day. And that's really what this is all about. So without further ado, we'll just jump right in. First, we're going to talk about student achievement, some data analysis, and throughout the course of the year, our teacher-based teams meet to take a look at data from assessments that are given to our students. That allows them to make decisions about how to meet the individual needs of our students. They may plan specific interventions or enrichments. And prior to the start of this school year, we emphasized that the focus this year was going to be all about teaching and learning. And as you know, sorry, I'm distracted over there. Yeah, I'll get that. My apologies. Thanks, Nance. I appreciate that. As that's part of the issue with me not using the clicker, but I know, it'll pop. Yeah, I'm not there yet. Thanks, Dan. All right. So let's go back to the beginning of the year. So the last 2 years, we've talked about COVID, around every corner, around every turn, protocols, procedures, mandates, guidelines, so on and so forth. And at the beginning of the year, and this was during a period, maybe in June and July and August, we had a time period there where things had kind of stabilized. And so we made the decision at that time, this year we are going to focus on teaching and learning. We had our all administrator meeting, and we made it very clear that's our focus for the year. We will not ignore our management responsibilities. We will adhere to protocols, procedures, and manage our buildings appropriately, but we were going to make teaching and learning our most important priority. One reward for that focus, as you can see up here, you can see some data for our third grade reading data. And we've talked about the third grade reading guarantee in the past, and so you can see some data there. If you go back to 2019, that's pre-COVID, and you look at those third grade reading scores, ODE, the average scale score was 692. In our district, it was 684. Percent proficient was 44. In the district, it was 36. So back in 2019, pre-COVID, we were below the state average. If you fast forward to 2021 in the fall, ODE's average scale score was 687, okay, and ours was 691. So we went from a -8 to a +4. Okay, so you're talking about a +12 in 2 years. And if you look at percent proficient, again, at the state it was 40, in our school district it was 44. So again, -8 to +4. So you're looking at a +12 in both of those categories. In addition to having more students score proficient, we also had more students score proficient in the accelerated and advanced categories as well. Again, this is just one example of how that commitment at the beginning of the year to teaching and learning has paid off. And the payoff is really about benefiting our kids. And that's what it's all about. But if you were to ask some of our staff members, around the district, teachers and administrators, hey, can you tell a difference this year? And I promise you the answer would be yes. Again, we have discussions and conversations about other things, but we always come back to teaching and learning. And I'll share some more examples as we go through the evening. The next source of data I want to look at is MAP testing data. So MAP testing takes place in grades 1 through 8. And you can see in reading math is what you have in your packet and on the screen. In math, our students met projected growth in grades 1, 2, 3, and 4. In grade 5, they missed it by 1/10 of a point. Overall, students in grades 6, 7, and 8 did not meet projected growth as a group in math. And reading, again, grades 1, 2, 3, and 6 met projected growth, while students in grades 4, 5, 7, and 8 did not. So this is extremely fresh data. We've just had our hands on it for a couple weeks. I know principals have already had meetings with our curriculum staff having discussions about that data. And again, I'll get into some other examples with that data later as well. Again, though, teachers are analyzing this data to identify the strengths and weaknesses of those individual students. One thing I want to point out about the MAP data, always remember, even with the third grade reading scores, the ACT data that I'm going to share in a few minutes with the MAP data, and I'll say this at the end, it's really not always about the results, whether it's good or bad. It's about how you respond. That's really what's most important. If you just accept the results, say, well, it is what it is, well, we'll try again next year. That's really not acceptable here. We have those detailed conversations, and we look at that data. We have individual conversations with principals. They have conversations with department heads and teachers. Teachers are having meetings, grade level meetings, department meetings as well. And that's really what it's all about. I'd like to, and going back to the MAP data, and a real eye-opener for me I think this is year 6 for me, and at some point, maybe year 4 or 5, I remember getting the map data. And at this time of year, we usually can get a pretty good idea, get that data finalized around the end of January from the winter map testing. And I remember getting that data, and it was the worst data that I'd ever seen. And I got all the, I went back, did all kinds of research, pulled the data out, the map data from the winter testing for several years, prior to that year. And we had lots of conversations. And at the end of that year, the map data was better than it had ever been. The growth that we saw in our kids had skyrocketed since winter map testing. So that's why, again, it's not always about the results. There's always a story to tell. So, for example, I know Mrs. Aug and I had some recent discussions. There was one grade level that, they were disappointed in their map data, but they're piloting a new program. And because they're piloting a new program, they had not gotten to the point yet where they covered some of the material that was on the assessment, which made sense. Again, they're piloting something, and sometimes that happens. So again, it's always, you always want to take everything, it's just a snapshot, in time. And we always say we will not be judged by our state report card. And this isn't a report card, but always, I always try to keep in mind, that was a lesson I learned early on when I received those that map data years ago, and then saw it make huge gains by the end of the year. The last piece I want to share with you is about FHS torch prep data. So talk a little bit about these blitz sessions. There are 2 all-day sessions held 1 week prior to the administration of the ACT. As you know, this has been a focus for our high school staff. We're so excited to be able to share this with you. And I think the high school staff has made several presentations about these sessions in the last few years. So if you look at this data, so number of students participating, 175. The percentage of students saw an increase in their composite score, 76.5%. So 77% of those kids saw an increase in their composite score. Percent in reaching the benchmark of 18, an increase, 58.2%. Who saw an increase in reaching the benchmark of 22 on the math section, almost 18%. Percentage of students who saw an increase in reaching the benchmark of 18 on the English section, almost 45%. The average increase of the students' composite score was 1.9 of the kids who were in that program. Highest improvement, we had, I believe, at least 2 students improved by 9 points. So their score went up 9 points, which is unbelievable. So last year, they served about 175 students in this program, and they are doubling that number this year. So you're looking at about 350. They're also considering involving sophomores next year in the program so that those students can get a head start. You're welcome, believe it. All right. So yeah, that's awesome. And again, just let me say, it's all about having those conversations, talking about how can we get better. We 175, now 350. Hey, look, how can we take it to the next level? And we're not always, if I'm being honest, we're not always able to take everything we do to the next level, because everything we do comes with a cost. So we try to maintain that balance of trying to do the best we can, get the most resources we can for our kids, but also be fiscally responsible. But we're super excited about what we're seeing and what we hope to see in the future. All right, moving on to building visits, serving the whole child. So I talked a little bit about that earlier. Mrs. Aug, Mr. Martin, and I, and this is new for this year as well. This is part of that, hey, our focus is teaching and learning. We went around to each building, met with building administrative teams. Those meetings usually lasted 1.5 to 2 hours. And those presentations basically consisted of the administrative team in those buildings sharing information with us, doing a data analysis. You know, what is, and again, we told them this is what we want to see, this is what we want to hear. Show us your data. What are your concerns? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? And what are your strategies? What are your action steps? How do you plan to address those? Great conversations. I truly believe we learned a lot and going around from building to building, having those presentations, but I also think the building administrators learned a lot as well. You know, our school buildings, there's a lot going on. It's easy to focus on management, making sure everyone is where they Those presentations were great. That whole process was outstanding, and we already have round 2 planned. We'll be going back to those buildings, having more presentations from those building administrators in the spring. All right, I'd like to talk a little bit about partnerships. So again, this is new. We have a partnership this year with the Hamilton County ESC. They're doing 2 audit processes for us. One, they're working closely with Central Elementary. They're doing learning walks. They're attending some of their teacher-based team meetings and holding small focus groups with staff in the building. The second one is an audit needs assessment in the areas of our title and special education services. Looking at our co-teaching practices, professional development, and progress monitoring tools. So in the end, those 2 processes are all about getting better, directly aligned with our focus on teaching and learning this year. I'd like to talk about opportunities for our students. So, and you've heard some of this stuff before, but I can't emphasize enough how important the one-to-one technology rollout has been for our kids. We leveled the playing field for a lot of our kids by expediting that one-to-one plan that we laid out a few years ago. Talk about STEM opportunities in our schools. We changed family and math nights to STEM nights. We received lots of positive feedback from our families and our staff. We also have incorporated STEM stations at Central, which you may recall was part of a spotlight presentation on Central at one of our meetings this year. Again, I'll reference the heavy emphasis on improving ACT scores at the high school through torch prep and through locally designed initiatives. Again, I've already mentioned more opportunities for students. Talk a little bit, and I think Mrs. Aug has shared this, a PRISM pilot in Algebra 1 classes at our freshman school. This course uses virtual reality technology to help students better understand core algebra concepts. We will be offering new math offerings at our high school, as well as a new Black History elective. The district continues to pay for ACT, Practice ACT, PSAT, Work Keys, ASVAB, PSAT, and AP exams so that fee is not a barrier for the students. I'm flying through a lot of information, but that one is a huge one. All of those tests, all of those opportunities, I guarantee you there would be a decent number of students who would not participate that if they had to pay a fee. And that's sad, but that is a reality. So kudos to the board for continuing that work. Conclusion for that section, you know, we talk about all of our students, serving all, serving each. We remain committed to increasing those academic opportunities for all of our students. All right, moving on to a technology update. January 13th, we had a board meeting, and that update was presented to the board and to the community. And again, just want to thank the board for their support of that initiative. The biggest impact that technology has had, and I try to be careful, and I talked about this in the leadership class yesterday. I don't want people to think that now because we have devices in our buildings that, you know, we just put the kids on the screens and that's what they do all day. That's not the case. However, what I will tell you, it has just dramatically changed student engagement. I can't tell you how many times I go into a classroom, especially at the elementary level. There's a lot of group work that occurs at the elementary level. A lot of times students are in small groups. And very often you have a teacher and maybe you have an aide or a tutor. Each one is working with a group, but then you have one or two other groups. Well, now those students have that device instead of a piece of paper in front of them and a task. They're on that device and they're engaged. And it's not just, I've seen it a lot. Every time I go into the buildings, I see it. So it's not like a flash in the pan. Hey, I visited this building and this was what I saw, that's great, but then I didn't see it the next time. It's every time, and it's amazing. So if you ever visit an elementary school, check that out. Professional development. Across the district, we have many, many professional development opportunities taking place. A few examples, during leadership meetings, we have set aside time for our administrators to discuss diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have training through public school works. We have book studies in buildings. A few examples include Compass Elementary having DEI, PD in January, March, while West has offerings in January, February, March, and April. And it's, again, you've heard me talk about Tommy Lewis from Make It Plain Consulting. We've again partnered with him. And one of my favorite things, I can't wait to see it. It's been delayed because of snow and weather and other things, but you've probably heard us talk about the fact that we want to have student-led groups and let some of our staff members hear from our students, hear their perspectives. And as you know from them speaking at board meetings, it's very powerful. So I'm really excited about taking that next step and that work. I want to go back to more presentations. In November, members of the curriculum department presented about testing and assessment. And during that presentation, information was presented about our state report card, which was limited due to COVID, preparing students for testing, different types of assessments, the ACT and the SAT. Once again, just our staff members go above and beyond to educate and communicate that important information to our students and families about testing, college preparation, etc. And I love how we have that conversation every summer where the Board of Education members talk about, hey, it would be really nice if we had a presentation about this topic so that our families can have access to this information. And then it happens. And it's always nice to see that come to fruition. Book studies, as you know, we're in the middle of one here. We actually have two going on across the district. The Power of Positive Leadership by John Gordon we're doing here and also with our administrators. And then want to thank Mrs. Gundrum. She actually suggested solve employee problems before they start. I don't even know if it's been a while, but you suggested that. So I'm leading that book study with our HR department, and it's been phenomenal. So we're talking about doing that at the district level next year. So that's been great. And really it's the best part about these book studies is the discussion and to hear the perspectives of others and how studying that book has impacted them. Because sometimes you hear things, you're like, oh, I didn't really think about it that way. And then we just learn from each other. In fact, at our admin meeting this week, we had a very lengthy discussion about the power of positive leadership, 45 minutes to an hour probably. So it's just been a really positive process. Closing the gap, I want to move on to that. So in addition to offering free summer school for the first time, we also tied in some transportation opportunities into summer school service. We hired, as you know, academic tutors across the district to support students and staff. And by the way, we've had nothing but outstanding feedback about those tutors. And again, if you go into our schools, it's very common for me to walk around and I'll see these tutors working with small groups of kids, and the administrator will say, oh, that's one of our tutors, and oh my gosh, they have been so great. So just super excited to have that opportunity. We've increased credit recovery options at our high school so that more students can graduate on time. So some people ask, well, what does that mean, more credit recovery options? So we've always had those offerings for kids who are behind, but a lot of people don't realize that, COVID, when we were going through that process, a lot more kids struggled than what they would have, or what they were pre-COVID. So we have an increased number of students who have put themselves in an at-risk category. So all of these things that we're doing for kids to try to catch them up, to close the gap, catch them up so they can graduate on time. Some other examples, so I talked about the high school, I talked about district-wide. We also have after-school programs at Creekside and Crossroads, and we have STAR camps at each of our elementary schools as well. And again, I'll say it again, and then we have Torch Prep at our high school. Just an FYI, on our in-service day, which will come up later as well, on November 2nd, we had professional development from Torch Prep for our teachers at our freshman school and high school. Because again, we've been having those conversations. Let's pull in our freshman school teachers as well so they can help prepare those students for the ACT as well. Focus on instructional leadership. So I've already mentioned that. That has been our focus this year. We set aside time for that. I talked about setting aside some time in our monthly meetings for PD. We also set aside time for instructional leadership. And so we allow our building principals to get into small groups and to share and to talk about, hey, this is what I'm seeing with my data, and we're running into this, and I see this as a barrier. And also share things that they are doing, implementing in their buildings. So not only is it a great reminder of, hey, this is our focus for this year, it's also another great opportunity for our principals to learn from each other. Ohio Readiness Assessment. So this is also new. We implemented the administration of Ohio Readiness Assessments in grades 6 through 12 in all core content areas. So if there is a state test in that subject area, a readiness assessment is also offered in the district. So staff members are looking at that data and again, making decisions about planning instruction based on what they learned from that data. Again, just another tool. And that's, there is no one thing that stands out. There are a lot of things working together, a lot of resources, a lot of tools to help us get where we want to be. Moving on to learning walks. One of my goals this year was to spend more time in our school buildings. So between those building presentations and learning walks, I've been able to be in a school building at least once a week since the start of the school year. And I'm so glad that I made that a priority. You know how it is. If you make it a priority, you put it on your calendar, it will happen. But I've been able to see so many of these things that I'm sharing firsthand. So many great things. I look forward to continuing that practice this year and for the years to come as well. All right, I'm going to move on to a safe, secure, and positive school environment. That's a picture there of our SRO at Crossroads. Mr. Adamson, I think I see that picture more than any other picture in the district. It pops up everywhere. The kids and staff at Crossroads must love that. So under this section, talk about professional development. We've offered EpiPen, inhaler, and Heimlich maneuver training to almost all of the buildings this year, and it will be offered to all by the end of the current school year. Partnerships. We've been doing this for a year. These are great meetings. We have district officials that meet with New Paths Counseling, Catalyst Counseling, our own counselors to evaluate the referrals that we're getting and also talk about some of those obstacles and barriers. Again, it's all about getting better. Because whatever we do in the beginning, we're always going to have opportunities to learn. So during those meetings, they talk about needs, roles, numbers, caseloads, ratios, all kinds of things. I want to talk about, speaking of Mr. Adamson, our relationship with our local law enforcement agencies. we have a great relationship in the city and township. We want to continue to grow that. I facilitate a meeting twice a year with our SROs and their building administrators to discuss current and future issues. All right, support for this guy right here, Mr. Lance Perry. You made the State of the District. Congratulations. You know, whenever we hire a new administrator on the district leadership team, again, it's important to make that a priority. In addition to having, you know, Lance and I you have conversations about a number of things that come up on a daily basis. So we certainly communicate regularly and touch base regularly. But we also take the time several times a year. I know we probably had 2 or 3 already. We put, you know, a meeting on our calendars to just catch up, to touch base, not about any issue. Just say, hey, how are you doing? How are things going? You know, how can I support you? What questions do you have? So, and he's doing a great job. So he's a veteran.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you. Social emotional needs and surveys. On November 18th, again, there was another presentation about how we meet the social emotional needs of our students. We talked about our counseling program as well as an update regarding our Hope Squad program, which at this time has been implemented in grades 6 through 12. The next thing I want to talk about is panorama surveys, which are issued or taken in grades 3 through 8 2 times a year. And a staff member from each building was trained to lead that prior to the start of the first survey. So students are surveyed on topics, prevention area topics, and support. It's just, yet again, one more touch point with our kids so that we know they're doing okay. And before I move on from SEL, you know, yesterday I talked at length about that in the leadership class, and most of you have been around for a while, and so you know the importance of that work for our kids, and I try to help other people understand it because not everyone is supportive of that work. And I try to help people understand by saying, you know, that our students, I know people say they are our future, and they are, but they really are the future of our community. They are growing up here. Many of them will continue to live here. They will be our neighbors. They will be our leaders. They will be neighbors with our kids and our grandkids, and their kids will go to our schools. And it's so important to get into that work. We have to support our kids. And, you know, I know also, and we touched on this, and, you know, that some people they kind of have a little, you know, we might be accused of trying to raise people's kids sometimes. And I said to this group, I said, I promise you, we don't want to raise anyone's kids. But we have a lot of kids who have a lot of needs, and they're not getting their needs met. And we talk with those families. We don't do anything without getting permission, getting support, and there's no, you know, there's no hidden agenda. It's simply these kids need help. And that's really what that's about. And if they don't get the help they need, if they don't get breakfast, you know, if they don't get meals, it's hard for them to learn. And we can't really do our jobs if they're not ready to learn. So I'm super passionate about that, and I know that not everyone sees it that way. And so every chance I get, I try to just touch on that a little bit and help people to understand why we do what we do. I'm going to moving on to communication. We have and I'm still under safety and security. We do have a web page that contains information regarding safety, security, and mental health issues. And then also under communication, we made it a goal to consistently communicate with our community about COVID-19. And I think during the course of the last, 2 years, it's 2 years next month, that's hard to believe. But every time our state or local officials made a recommendation, released a guideline, we made sure to touch base with our community to make sure that they knew where we were. And I think most of our community members, people who pay attention, they probably know the language just as much as we do, because I feel like we've released about 125 statements in the last 2 years. But I feel like we did a really good job of communicating with our community. And speaking of community, I'm going to move on to community engagement. Over the course of the last several years, we've worked hard to build and maintain positive relationships. We talk about events. Back in the fall, we hosted a community appreciation night for city and township officials, as well as our Board of Education members. We started that maybe 3 or 4 years ago. We're excited to host a State of the Community luncheon again next month, March 9th, with township and city officials, as well as Board of Education members. We haven't been able to do that, and there are a lot of things we haven't been able to do for a couple years. And it's nice to, again, going back to that all working together, and we haven't had an opportunity to touch base like we have had in the past because of COVID, so we're excited to get back into those routines. Community coffee events. Our district office leadership team, we make ourselves available twice in the fall, 2 times in the spring, once in the city, once in the township, 1 a.m., 1 p.m. So we try to hit all the, potential dates, times of the day, locations, so that we're available for everyone. Talk a little bit about Fairfield Pride. Really, I'll just get excited about the fact, just started something last year, continue that tradition with the Fairfield Pride Scholarship for a student who understands the importance of having pride in school and community, and has exhibited that pride inside and outside the classroom. In the fall, we distributed, and you should have in your packet, a professional newsletter. I'm sorry, this is actually the quality profile that's in your packet. So in the fall, we usually do that in the spring as well, we distribute that newsletter that goes out to our community members. So you don't have a copy of that, but you probably got one in the mail. But you do have a copy of the quality profile, which I'll talk about later. All right, communication, again, carrying on with communication. This year, Angie, Neal, and I, we tried something new, a lot of videos. And it's easy to get some people to join you on a video and not so easy to get others. And I won't say any names, but if you've kept up, you probably know who likes to be on videos and who doesn't like to be on videos. So we've had superintendent sit-down videos, messages to the community, messages for staff. What's been great about the videos is that, when some of the guidance changes or something happens unexpectedly, we can just make a video and get the word out to folks. I love it when we have kids on, and we do a superintendent sit down. I have one coming up here at Crossroads with a young lady, and actually just met her in the hallway today. Unplanned, we just bumped into each other and were introduced. So it's always good to highlight our kids, and all of this, superintendent sit-downs are all about highlighting students, staff, and so on and so forth. Again, we've addressed issues, shared information. Again, just another tool to help people stay connected and for us to connect with everyone in our community. Talk a little bit more about presentations. Back in the fall, Mr. Perry presented about Building Our Future 2.0. We're excited to eventually have a plan in place for when the opportunity presents itself for a number to be called. If you remember, we had that presentation. We're still waiting for a follow-up to get an update. In fact, Mr. Perry checked back in last month, and they're not ready to give us an update yet, but once we do, we'll be having another update on Building Our Future 2.0 as well. Talk about building partnerships with neighboring districts. One of the coolest things that happened this year, during the pandemic, there were a lot of decisions that had to be made. In that first fall, the GMC superintendents got together, and there were a lot of tough conversations in a Zoom meeting about scheduling and events where we were participating against each other. And some of the people in the room had never talked to each other. And I remember thinking at that time, like, how is this possible that, you know, superintendents in the same conference never talk to each other? And so I had this idea, and it actually came to fruition. This past fall, we had a luncheon. We hosted it at the high school for treasurers and superintendents of all of the GMC schools. I was told that that group had not had an official meeting in over 20 years. And I think the last time they met was when Lima Senior was in the GMC and they were removed. So I thought it was pretty cool that Fairfield, of all the districts, was the one that brought everyone back together. Love that. Celebrating staff members. One of our favorite things, it's a little bit of a tongue twister, excellent essential employees. So we go around the district usually about once a month, and Mr. Martin and I and Angie Neal, and we give out gift cards, and we give out certificates and a coupon for a jeans week. And they love that coupon for a jeans week. To just employees across the district, we make sure we hit all of our buildings throughout the course of the year, and it has been really amazing. We really enjoy it, and I think it's we have so many great employees, it's impossible to get to all of them. But every chance we get, we love to recognize the work that our staff members do for kids. All right, so now we're going to move on. This is where Nancy comes in handy, because this is like the speed round. So it's like the whole up from August until December flashing before your very eyes, right? So here we go. We'll start with opening day. That is one of the best days of the year. There are about 6 or 7, 8 or 9 of those best days of the year. That's one of them. Best year ever until next year. This year did not disappoint. Back to school is the next one. Again, one of my personal favorites. The day that students come back to school, I will tell you that as an administrator, you walk around in that building all year long and you just want the kids to come back, or I say all summer long. It's like, please bring the kids to us. And the building just comes back to life. And you know, the floors are all clean. It's just awesome. All right, student voice. If you remember back, I'm going to take you back to August 19th. And let me also just say, and this goes back to having students share their perspectives with our staff members. Nothing is more important than the voices of our students. That our students are they're the reason we do what we do. So we had Camilla Yankson, Annie Udosin, and Brielle Shorter presented that statement of solidarity at our meeting back in August to amplify Native voices and spread awareness of Native history and culture. Recently, we had a ceremony at the high school where that plaque was put on display, and those plaques are going up all across the entire district. Up next, we have KALE. So we were super excited to welcome KALE to the family at the high school. If you haven't had the opportunity to meet him, he's awesome. He's full of energy, very high drive. He's a great dog. He's continued his training. He's already a favorite. You know, students, staff, everyone across the district, anyone who comes into contact with him. FCSD goes to Puerto Rico, so we often talk about student opportunities. Last summer, some of our students and families got to go to Puerto Rico and immerse themselves in the Puerto Rican history, culture, and language. Recognizing student behaviors. Each of our schools does a great job recognizing our students for positive behaviors. At the high school, they're recognized for kindness, respect, being responsible, and being a problem solver. All right, up next, just tell me if this sounds familiar. Kyle Ledbetter, Elena Scott, Madeline Zoller, and Anthony Balfour were chosen to perform with the Ohio All-State Ensembles. This means they are the very best in the state and will perform at the Ohio Music Education Association Convention in Cleveland. What's the most important part of that phrase? the very best in the state, and you got to see them tonight. So cool. Preparing for the future. So we often talk about meeting our kids where they are. Our kids take many different pathways. We try to give them whatever they need, regardless of the path they choose. Here, you have a military representative talking to students at our high school about how joining the military can help pay for college. 9/11 ceremony at South. Again, if you've never, that's one of those events. If you've never attended it, you should attend at least once. We were thankful for the opportunity to do that this year, to remember those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. The students and the staff at South do an amazing job. The city is there in full force. First responders, police, fire. It's really something to see. Want to talk a little bit about expecting the unexpected. So going back to September 14th, we lost power at Crossroads and the Academy. And you never want to get that call, but we did. And we ended up sending students home. And really what I want to talk about with that particular day is it was amazing to see our staff members rally. I mean, everyone showed up. We were here. We were assisting. And a special shout out to Crossroads, because they were in the dark in this building with 1,200 middle school kids for quite some time. And I joked that I walked in here to have a conversation with the principal, and it was pretty chaotic in here. It was okay, it was safe, don't worry. But I remember saying, I got to go back outside and talk to a few other people. But they seriously did a great job. I don't remember exactly, but I know it was over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. The most amazing part, the fact that we had, that many kids in here, was that our transportation department, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Right at the time that they said they would be here, every single bus we had pulled up. It just was perfect. And to have that many buses pull in here, and it wasn't planned, and have them roll at the exact time that we thought they would roll was unbelievable. So our folks just make things happen when they have to for kids. It was amazing. All right, next up, this was an amazing night, Friday, September 17th. We welcomed our fans back to our first home game of the year, and it had been a while since people were allowed to be there. So the stadium that night, if you were there, it was full of energy, and the team won by beating Oak Hills 34-14. Up next, perfection. We were so excited to recognize Tatum Prophet, a student at our high school, for scoring a perfect 36, the highest score possible on the ACT. Less than 1% of students who take the test score a 36. Celebrating student success. We were excited to celebrate Anais Fatsing, a senior AP art student at our high school. She won a bronze medal in July at the National NAACP's ACT-SO competition. Up next, more reason to celebrate. You see a picture of Lucas Elmore and Ben Litkin, two students from Crossroads. They earned positions in the Cincinnati Junior Youth Wind Ensemble and will perform at the University of Cincinnati's College Conservatory of Music. Up next, did you know we have our very own junior Olympian? Marion Sissy Davis is a 5th grader at Compass and competes in the long jump at the Junior Olympics and actually was on the news. Up next, we talk about Fairfield always leading the fight. Each year, our volleyball team and freshman school raise money to help battle cancer. This year's focus was to raise money in support of West Elementary Principal Missy Moeller. This has become a tradition in our district, and I love the way every single year our students and staff members engage to take care of each other. State champion. This is senior Matt O'Brien back in the fall. In addition to being a manager for the fall football team, he's the unofficial hype man for our student section, and now he can add state champion to his list of titles because on September 25th, he won the state golf championship for Special Olympics. Up next, we we're excited to celebrate 7 students who selected to the Cincinnati Symphony Youth Orchestra. You can see the picture of the 7 students selected there. Next, we're going to give a shout out to students for positive behaviors, in this case, Creekside Middle School. Again, earlier I talked about this happens at every school. Here's Creekside doing it. They're recognizing students for positive behaviors. In addition to recognition, they get a coupon from Frisch's. Up next, again, we're going to talk more about music, Grand Champions. We have this year's group, our marching band, carrying on that tradition by being named Grand Champions at the Loveland Drums along the Little Miami. And then next, the senior parking spaces. We started this a couple years ago. It was a new tradition. Each year, that tradition lives on. It's a really cool thing. Again, if you've never driven by while that's happening, I would encourage you just to drive by while they're out there working. It's really cool. They're hanging out with each other. They're having fun painting their spots and watching their classmates do the same. And you'll see parents out there, little siblings. I mean, it's quite the event, and you can see some of the cool things they do in those parking spaces. All right, FCSD focus on mental health. I've talked a little bit about that already, but this year we had a 2-part series. As you know, we've had a special event every year. This year, step into your child's shoes, taking a step toward understanding your child's perspective on their emotional wellness. Out of all the events we've held over the years, this was by far, not even close, the best attended one we've ever had. The auditorium at the freshman school was pretty packed. It was really awesome. We heard wonderful feedback from our parents and our staff members. Exceptional essential employees. Again, I talked about that earlier. There you see some pictures of us getting out and celebrating some of our staff members. Like I said, it's a favorite for all. Up next, we have homecoming, which is, I think, a favorite of anyone. This year was amazing and unique. We had great weather. We won the game by beating Mason. We had Alyssa Miller as the queen and Will Watson as the king. And then the most nerve-wracking part of the entire weekend was the dance and what kind of weather we were going to have. So Dr. Rice and I'd call, hey, did you see the forecast for next Saturday? Oh, they changed it. Oh, now they're saying this, now they're saying that. And I can't tell you how many parents would come up, hey, what are you guys going to do if this happens? What are you going to do if that happens? Couldn't have been better. Beautiful night, not too cold, not too hot, no rain. The kids had a blast under the stars. It was cool. All right, up next, color run at North Elementary. Those are some awesome picks. That was hosted by our North PTC. And I just want to say our PTCs across the district are amazing. They just do so much for our kids and our staff members. We wouldn't be able to do all the things that we do without them. So I want to give them a shout out. This board member goes to Creekside every year. Our former board president, Michael Birding, he would go talk to kids at Creekside. He did that again last fall, and every year I know we always get a kick out of the questions that the kids ask him. Lots to celebrate. Going back to FHS, here you see some pictures of some students. Annie Udosin was recognized with academic honors from the College Board, one of 32,000 students from across the country to receive that honor. Then you have Gabrielle Lefevre, named a 2021 Commended Scholar. Annie, Gabrielle, and Tatum Prophet, who I already mentioned, who scored a 36, were all honored during a football game on October 22nd. The next thing I want to share is a really cool letter and I'm not going to read it to you. I'll just read one small little part. This is one of the this is like one of the best things tonight to be shared. So this parent says, we've been blown away by the efforts taken to go above and beyond in organizing a soccer team this fall. What a special gift Miss Terry has given these kids to sacrifice her own time to allow these kids to have an inviting space and time to play such an awesome sport, to expose kids that may not have had the chance or resources, to allow our kids to play and learn and have fun together with their buddies without having to be all about the competition or winning. and to top the fun off with a magical opportunity to play in the stadium under the lights in front of a crowd of excited family members and countless central teachers, being announced by their very special principal with professional photographers capturing the moments. Somebody hand us mamas some tissues. So how special is that? And again, that's the kind of stuff that happens all over this district on a daily basis. It doesn't mean people are always showing up and taking pictures and it's not on the news and it may not make it to social media, but that is what's happening everywhere. And it's awesome. And I mean, again, I talked about the kids earlier this evening. This is what it's all about. Amazing. All right, now we're to the quality profile. So you should have that in your folder. And I would encourage you, if you haven't looked at that, to take a look at that. This is all about all the wonderful things in this school district. But, you know, you can't fit them all in there because you wouldn't be able to lift it, okay? Keep in mind when you look at it, it's always 1 year behind. So this is for 2021, okay? It's for 2021, so always remember that about the quality profile. And we're not the only ones that do that, by the way. A lot of districts issue a quality profile. I love this next item. Teachers change lives, staff members change lives. Senior night, the senior football players identified staff members who made an impact on them. Those staff members wore their players' practice jerseys at school to show their support, and that's a picture of all of them getting together after school. That was one of my favorites too. All right, spotlight on Crossroads. We had some, during one of our board meetings, we got to hear from some of our Crossroads students about opportunities that they had. We heard about Student Advisory Council, the Anime Club, a new CARE community club. And as a large district, one of the things we work really hard to do is find a way for every kid to connect at school. And that's hard when you're that large, when you serve so many. Costumes for kids. We've been doing this for a couple years. And this program, families who are in need, it's not for everyone, just those in need, they get a free costume, a free pumpkin, and a treat bag. This year, something new, they also got a pumpkin. And I don't remember that happening in the past, but those were donated by Pippin's Produce. So just, again, another example of our staff reaching out, partnering with others to do some cool things. All right, up next, back in the fall, Jason Krauss, with his 63rd win, became the winningest coach in the history of the Fairfield football program. Again, that's great, but the best part of the night was seeing all of his former players that came back and hung out, and they stayed there on the sidelines and celebrated with their former coach after the game. Really special. All right, up next, that's a picture of our high school staff wearing pink to show support for one of their own, Alicia Totten, as she was fighting a battle with cancer. And again, I always say we're just one big Fairfield family. This is another example of our employees taking care of and supporting each other. Costume creativity. Here's just some really great pictures of students and staff members dressing up. You know, our staff members don't have to do this, but they do it because the kids love it. I mean, you talk about, you know, I'm sure you've been into some of our schools around October 31st and, you know, the candy and the costumes. The kids are just loving it. But our staff does a great job doing that just because they know it, just, you know, the kids love it. All right, what happens on in-service day? We have a couple of those every single year. So here you see some pictures, two great examples. At the high school, teachers are learning how to better prepare students for the ACT. That's a program I mentioned earlier. At Compass, teachers are learning how to utilize technology to differentiate instruction for their students. In the end, these days provide us with some great opportunities for professional development so we can better meet the needs of our kids. Up next, more student recognition at Creekside. Month of October, they were recognized for being positive role models and good school citizens. FCSD making history. We were so excited to have our first official female wrestling team. We've had female wrestlers in the past, but now we have our own team. This is another example of the district expanding opportunities for all, inside and outside of the classroom. Identity Day at the high school. In November, many of our students participated in Identity Day, which inspired students to express themselves, celebrate culture and identity, and spread the message that variety makes for a better society. A special thanks to the Asian American Association and the African Student Union for putting that day together for our building. Veterans Day, another one of my favorites. So proud of how we honor the veterans, not just in our schools, but in our community. We always have our luncheon at the high school. East and North Elementary participated in a Veterans Day parade in the township, and North Elementary also had a flag raising. Getting to see those veterans honored is one of my favorite events of the year. Special thanks to Officer Lamb. We recognized him for 19 years of service as a DARE officer for our kids. So you can imagine over 19 years the impact that he had on tens of thousands of our kids to help them make positive and healthy life choices. Next, we're going to talk about, again, serving the whole child. In November, we had that opportunity, again, student voice. We heard from one of our own talking about the work that the Hope Squad does in our buildings. This is, once again, just another example of how we try to serve the whole child. No Shave November fundraiser. Again, some pictures of staff members across the district participated in a fundraiser for 2 staff members who were battling cancer. That raised about $3,000 for those 2 families, just from people who decided not to shave for the month of November. So it's an easy task. Supporting our students. In the past, we talked a lot about educating and supporting students and families as they plan for life after high school. If you've been through this as a parent, FAFSA, oh goodness, it's not easy. And for those of you that haven't been through it, enjoy it. But what I love about this is that I love the fact that our high school set aside 2 days to help students work through that difficult process. Students have meltdowns, and parents have meltdowns over this process. I can speak from experience. It happens. So I just remember seeing that for the first time thinking, oh my gosh, this is so nice for our families. Love it. FCSD going above and beyond. This is another one of those things that probably hardly anyone knew about. This is a soccer game for students in our EL program at our high school. It was organized by our EL tutors. I stopped by. I think that was the Tuesday, the last day of school before Thanksgiving break. You know, a lot of times people they got places to go on that day. As soon as school's out, everyone takes off because, it's about to be Thanksgiving. And they scheduled that for that day, those employees. And when I stopped by, there were all kinds of teachers and other staff members stopping by just for a few minutes to watch these kids out there just having so much fun playing soccer on our soccer field. Again, after school, above and beyond, that's what our staff does time and time again. All right, up next we have our seniors standing out. We have celebrating 2 students at the FHS who were Coca-Cola Scholar semifinalists, Anna Udosin and Anastasia Yankson. 2 students selected out of over 68,000 applicants. Up next, we talk about partnerships. We're looking at one with Procter & Gamble. So excited to partner with them on the Aspire Mentoring Program. As a result, we have 7 of our students who have an opportunity to learn about P&G and the technical research path. Very thankful to provide our students with these types of opportunities. Up next, proud to recognize 69 students in grades 7 through 12 who were selected to participate in the Ohio Music Education Association's District 13 Honor Band and Honor Jazz Band. Over 800 students auditioned, so we were very proud to hear that we had such a high number of students chosen. So again, over 800, we recognize 69. Up next, Mr. Mike Davis, high school and Butler Tech medical specialist instructor, was recognized by the Community Blood Center as a hometown hero for his work with high school blood drives. And Mr. Birding finally gets a key, so he had to wait 7 years. But we were so excited to finally give him a key to the district during his last meeting on December 9th. Up next, we have Rosie, a certified therapy dog. She spent some time at North Elementary, and by the way, she's been spending time in other buildings as well, if you've been following Facebook. Again, the goal of those visits: increase social emotional development and provide physical and emotional health benefits to students. And we do have Warren is at South now, full-time, our facility dog. Feel free to stop by there and see him anytime. He's amazing. If you do ever visit with him, I would encourage you not to walk the halls with him because you will not get very far. He's very, very popular at South. ELT annual update. Each December we have that update presented to the board and our community. Share information about recruiting, retention, increasing cultural awareness, community engagement, and student engagement. In the last few years, we've again welcomed students to the team and have appreciated hearing their voices and stories. All right, up next we have FHS students giving back. I love this one. This is, we talk about, our kids are so impressionable and they often look up to older kids. So here you see some high school prevention coalition students going down into our middle schools to talk to the younger students about misuse and abuse of prescription drugs and how they can impact your body. So once again, it's important for them to hear that message from as many people as possible. But an older student, one of those older students may prevent some of our younger students from making a bad decision. All right, I think this is the last time a birding is going to come up tonight. I just got a kick out of this. Birding, swearing in birding, and birding, swears in birding. So as we said goodbye to one birding, we were excited to welcome another birding to the Board of Education. It was really cool to see Mrs. Birding swear Mr. Birding in, and to see Mr. Birding swear in Miss Birding. Hope you followed that. All right. Santa makes special appearance at Creekside. So right before break, Santa, the big guy, made an appearance at movie night at Creekside for staff members and their families. We're hopeful that Santa will be able to visit all buildings in the near future. We'll keep an eye out on that, see what happens. And then last but not least, my closing comments. 7:59, not bad. In all seriousness, I said it at the beginning, I believe that the state of our district is strong. It's strong because of people. Staff members, parents, community members, Board of Education. Everyone works together to do what's in the best interest of our students. And more so than ever in the last 2 years, this district has proven it will do whatever it takes to meet the needs of our kids. We've faced many challenges, and I know that we will continue to face many more. And we may not even know what those challenges are, but we know we'll have some. But we will not allow anything to stop us from doing our best for every single student who walks through our doors. And that is why the Fairfield City School District is such a special place. In closing, I want to thank each one of you for all that you do, for your support and your leadership, because without your support, it wouldn't be possible for our employees to do what they do for our kids every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do we have any questions or comments for him? While he's at the podium?
I just don't know where to start. That was fantastic, Mr. Smith. Thank you so much. I guess I'll say something first. Thank you, Mr. Smith, and to the whole school district. Just wow. So much greatness, so much good, so much awe. Running out of words to describe it. It's just really, really good. Really, really good. I guess just a couple points. To go back to the ACT, moving up 9 points, that's huge. And I side with Mrs. Shorter on the sophomore. We talked about that at the end of that one meeting. I think it's great that the sophomores are able to, take advantage of this, of that pre-testing. That's awesome. And having the freshman teachers get engaged in some of that to even segue into the sophomores being able, that's huge. It's huge. And you was talking about the one-on-one option and the IT stuff. Again, the whole district just did a great job going from 0 to 60 very, very quickly, and y'all did a great job.
Yeah.
And I did walk through one, maybe two elementaries. I think it was one this year, and I saw what you spoke to. The kids are engaged in the laptops. The teachers are engaged in the kids. There's another group over here doing this. They're there, and it's good. It's really, really good to see that. So, yeah, those are just two of the very many things I could say. I just thank you so much for what you do, your entire team, from facilities to teachers to cafeteria, everyone. Thank you all so very much. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Skender?
I think I've said this before when we've had one of these, but it's easy to, live your life from day to day or meeting to meeting and just deal with the issues that are in front of you at that meeting, and then over time you kind of go, yeah, we talked about that, but I'm going to have to look up what the specifics were. And seeing this is like putting all of the puzzle pieces together for the last year, and it kind of refreshes your memory, and you go, oh yeah, all these great things did happen, and I remember this conversation and that conversation, and it's wonderful to see all of this. And yeah, the torch prep data was awesome, and it is amazing that we're going to have more kids involved in it this year. The data analysis with the third grade ELA, that was also great. I mean, there's so many wonderful things in here. Like Mr. Clark said, it's hard to know what to talk about, but thank you all so much, everybody, from the very top all the way down to the bottom. Such a great team and such a special time.
Absolutely,
for sure.
I agree.
Mrs. Birdie? Ms. Birdie?
Yeah, I sentiments exactly like the other members. Thank you so much for the report. It really is eye-opening how great the district is and how progressive we are. I really like them, enjoyed the ACT prep. That's pretty impressive, and I'm super pumped to see that we're going to be doubling that numbers and providing more opportunities. I'm also super impressed that we do go ahead and cover the fees for all those tests and exams, so we are providing opportunities for all students. So thank you so much for the report, and like they said, thank you for every person involved in this district, because we really truly do make it what it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. This is impressive as always. Thank you so much for putting all this material together that basically spotlights how great the schools are. And I can't say enough about that. One of the flyers that was sent out, it was one of our newsletters, was sent out to the parents in the district, and it spotlighted that 85%, I think it was 80 or 85% of our kids have declared that they are going to college. And I didn't realize it was that high. But with that in mind, I cannot tell you how happy I am to see what's happening with Torch Prep. When that was, I think that was an idea by Mr. Sanders, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I think you were involved with coming up with that idea. So with you two together, with the whole team together, it's really impressive to see what's happening with the movement in our scores. That is so very important, along with the whole child. And I'm just so glad that we're expanding those opportunities to 10th graders. I know it's one of those things where I felt like I'm on some kind of bandwagon here, just going. But I'm so glad that you guys are receptive to ways to improve, ways to just make things better for our kids, since we have so many that are going to college. And we have done a great job. You guys have done a fantastic job with making that road to college a little bit smoother for financial consideration. So that is always important to me. It's important to see all of these wonderful things that they're involved in, but it's also very reassuring to know that out of the 85%, the kids are moving in the right direction so that they can increase the financial likelihood that they can pay for college.
Right.
That college will be affordable for them, and that scholarships such as this very lucrative one afforded to Annie and Mrs. Yankston will be something that more of our kids can take advantage of. So thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for listening to me go on, and other board members, of course. But I know that is definitely important. As a parent, I feel that myself. So we just want to do what's best for our parents.
Absolutely. And I just would like to add, your point about being receptive, that's what makes our district so great, is that our administrators, teachers, staff members across the district, they are open-minded, because in the end, we just want to do best for kids. We want to be at our best for them every single day. And so that's what's great. Like, we don't claim to have all the answers. So if someone makes a suggestion, maybe a board member or one of our principals, one of our assistant principals, well, hey, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's go find out what's happening over here. Let's see if we can learn from them. We learn from each other. We're not, it's not above us to learn from other people, because we don't claim to have all the answers. So we owe it to our kids, and again, it's just a credit to just so many great employees across the district who are willing to listen and try new things to do what's best for kids. And you got your whole high school team here tonight talking about, torch prep. I mean, there they are. They are the ones. I can't. Hey, let's get together. Let's talk about what we can do to help our kids better prepare for the ACT. And the response from them and everyone else is like, okay, yeah, let's get together. I mean, that's what we do every day. And so it's really just a great group of people working together for kids. But, and I said this years ago, when one of you says something or makes a suggestion, it doesn't just get discarded. We listen. Our team listens. We then go back and discuss it. We share it with other folks, and because again, we don't claim to have all the answers. So thank you. Thank all of you. So you're appreciated.
Mr. Smith, my fellow board members have done a great job of pointing out all the positive things in this report. I simply want to say I think you can criticize a negative behavior, or you can recognize a positive behavior. And this report over and over really spoke to that culture of recognizing positive behaviors, both in our student body as well as our excellent essential employees. And the positivity, the culture you've created, it's part of the book study we're doing. I see that in spades in what you're doing here in the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Was it under an hour?
It was longer than 7 minutes.
The intro was 70 minutes.